What's up, Magic players? It's Doyle, your host here on DoylePrimeMTG, where I bring you the latest and greatest in Magic content that I can while still trying to have a life. Today I wanted to highlight the Quandrix Precon and show you how I would upgrade it. And I'm not going to make any sort of 10 cards for $25 restriction. I'm just going to show you how I think that the deck would end up were it to try to keep up with my playgroup.
Forests, islands, mountains, plains, and swamps. The multiverse is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. There is a tingling in the spine, a faint sensation, as if a distant memory, of walking from plane to plane. Our lives have been forever changed, as if by magic. Embark with me on this journey to eternity. Experience the true power of mind over matter, as we ignite your spark and traverse into the magic multiverse.
I want to stress that this is already a fun deck to play, but I wanted to go above and beyond what most people are doing for early upgrades. I don't have any budget restraints, but I also didn't include things like Gaia's Cradle, Sylvan Library, or Ristic Study on purpose. This is meant to be my interpretation of how I would build this deck for fun, while still trying to keep up with the average playgroup. Adrix and Nev Twincasters is a legendary 2/2 Merfolk Wizard for 2 blue-green that has Ward 2, and basically parallel lives as text. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. This is generic for any kind of token, so I've decided to be a bit diverse in the kinds of tokens that we create. Of course, we will need to ramp up to be able to explode later on. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Simic Signet are really clutch includes, and I'm very happy to see all 3 in the Precon. Blighted Woodland and Myriad Landscape are great includes. Even though the rate isn't the best, these lands play an important role in the ramp category. The best way to improve the ramp in this deck is to add some mana dorks. Birds of Paradise, Elvish Mystic, and Llanowar Elves are some good go-to ramp options that take this deck up a notch. Incubation Druid, which is included, and Paradise Druid also help to get our twins out a turn early. We can also improve the sorcery ramp spells by exchanging them for a Rampant Growth, 3 visits, and we'll keep that Kodama's Reach for good measure. Another card that helps to accelerate our mana production is Freyalise Llanowar's Fury. She makes us reach for her with a mana value of 5, but she can produce a Llanowar Elf token each turn, helping us to ramp just that much more. That's 2 Llanowar Elves every turn if we have Adrix and Nev on the battlefield. Next up, we want to be drawing cards from our library to keep up with our 3 opponents. Coiling Oracle and Risen Reef will each net us a card on entering the battlefield, and also have the chance to ramp us. These are great targets to use a copy spell on. Zimone, Quandrix Prodigy, is a bit clunky in terms of mana cost and abilities, but the extra mana is not usually a problem for us. She can draw us up to 2 cards per turn cycle, which, even for 4 mana each, is quite solid. Curiosity Crafter is a neat new card that lets our token creatures draw us cards on a combat damage trigger. We can easily find an improvement for this, but it serves our purposes for now and adds some flavor to the field. We do also want to include an Oran Frostfang, though. It has a similar ability for card value, but it really adds a nice touch, giving our attacking creatures Death Touch. Idol of Oblivion is a must-have in this deck. It's a 2-mana Phyrexian arena in most games. Super powerful and easy to use. We can always draw big and green with Return of the Wild Speaker, Shamanic Revelation, and Rishkar's Expertise. Each of these will grant us value all at once, based on our creature army. It's also important to include a bit of accruing value, so we will throw an Elemental Bond in here because many of our tokens are pretty large in size. Freyalise also helps us to draw with her ultimate ability. Next up, let's take a look at how we can improve the control aspect of this deck. First up, Sequence Engine is a real interesting piece of graveyard hate that also generates tokens. I have to applaud this unique design space here. Guardian Augmenter is a fantastic new piece of protection for commanders, especially partner commanders, though still excellent in this deck due to its flash ability. Wizards gave us 2 new excellent board wipes this year, with Oversimplify and Perplexing Test. The flexibility of Test here is amazing, reminiscent of Crooks of Fate. Oversimplify is just devastating. The exile ability is mean, but since we go wide in this deck, it flips the script, making us the largest replacement token. Even though it doesn't really synergize with our commander, it's still an extremely useful board wipe. We also got some fun token copy spells, with theoretical duplication and replication technique. Duplicating an opponent's creature twice? Yes, please. And even getting to be a little political and gaining a potential 4 token copies of a creature that we control? That's pretty insane. Champion of Lambholt and Cassetto Orchid Archmage are invaluable in this deck. Unblockability is ridiculous. We're going wide and tall with tokens in this build, so smashing face again and again is not going to be a problem. Not to mention the added utility of Rogue's Passage to be able to do this on a land. Plaxcaster Frogling is a nice little piece of protection, deterring our opponents from trying to target our creatures with counters on them. Aside from Freylease, which, let's be honest, she does everything, Trigon Predator begins our single target removal, blowing up artifacts and enchantments. Accompanying this terrifying beast is Beast Within and Crozan Grip. Rapid Hybridization is an efficient and flavorful piece of creature removal, or we can even trade up a Saproling for a couple of 3/3s. Repudiate and Replicate is a wonderful split spell, either countering an ability or creating a token copy or 2 of a creature that we control. 2 more massively oppressive board wipes include Rampage the Clans and Azuri's Predation. Each slaps a bunch of tokens into play, guaranteeing that we turn out on top. Spitting Image also lets us generate many tokens that are clones repeatedly with its retraceability. And Asika's Chariot not only makes a few tokens when it enters the battlefield, but also makes a token copy of a creature that we control whenever it attacks. Now we can move on to closing out the game. These spells will take us over the brink and into victory lane. We are in a token doubling deck, so most of these cards can generate tokens. For example, Curious Herd and Rite of Replication will each grant us a dangerous amount of tokens, especially with Adrix and Nev on the battlefield. What would our deck be without some level of redundancy, especially the kind that stacks? Parallel Lives will double up our doubling ability. If you know anything about exponential growth, you know that this is a powerful effect. Though we don't want more than 2 to 4 of these effects, even in the most optimized of builds, since they do require other good things to be going on. Paradox Zone is a fantastic new enchantment that grants us fractal tokens at our end step, which get exponentially bigger each turn. The turn we play it, we get a 2/2, then the next turn a 4/4, and then an 8/8 and a 16/16, etc. Easily something for our opponents to focus on removing. Speaking of exponentially growing tokens, Helm of the Host will be unbelievable in this deck. The first time it triggers while attached to our commander, it produces 2 copies. But the next time, it'll produce 8 more copies. And then if it's still around for a 3rd combat, it would make an additional 2,048 more copies of Adrix and Nev. Hashtag good game, well played. We have quite a few creatures that make multiple tokens, starting with Kazandu Tuskcaller and Scoot Swarm, and Rampaging Balefs. Each of these will repeatedly slam tokens into play, even though 2 are much more obviously in a higher class. Fairy Artisans allows us to use all of our opponent's ETB triggers, giving us a token copy of each creature as it enters the battlefield, 2 if our commander's out. Even if it removes the remaining tokens before it does so, this is an amazing effect. Reef Worm and Mitotic Slime each generate continuously more tokens as they die. These are really fun with a sacrifice outlet, though we aren't quite going that direction in this deck. Tendershoot Dryad, Wolverine Riders, and Coma Cosmos Serpent each generate tokens during each player's upkeep, greatly accelerating our board size. Spawning Kraken and Giant Adaphage each allow us to make large tokens on a combat damage trigger. We can also make our smaller tokens enter larger with the Master Biomancer, giving each of them counters equal to the Master Biomancer's power. Essex Fractal Bloom is a bomb in this deck, and I would highly recommend considering him as the help for a slightly different type of deck. The first time each turn that we would create one or more tokens, we create that many copies of a creature instead. This is fantastic, though at the helm we would want a little bit more cards that create many tokens at one time, like our final edition, Avenger of Zendikar. Great with Adrix and Nev, even better with Essex. Just to give you an idea of what that difference would look like, with our commander and 7 lands, the tokens get doubled to 14. But with Essex, the tokens enter as copies of Avenger, making a total of 49 plants. And if we play 1 land, each of those plants will get 8 +1/+1 counters. As for lands, I only removed Study Hall and left the rest exactly the same as the Precon. So I will not cover them in this deck tech, though they are in the deck list below. I just started a new job this week, so instead of discussing the cuts, I would actually ask that if you have any questions about what cards I cut and why, that you direct those questions to the comments section below, and I will answer as promptly as I can. That about wraps it up for this deck tech. I hope you enjoyed the video. You will find the link to the full deck list on arcadeck.com in the description, complete with a maybe board. Let me know in the comments below if you would take this deck in a different direction, or if there are any key includes that I missed. Cheers, and happy casting. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button, and also share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like these, or hear me ramble about how to navigate this Magic multiverse, go ahead and click that subscribe button to stay up to date on the latest from me, Doyle Prime, and the happenings throughout Magic the Gathering. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you all next video.